Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. My name is Michelle Wooten, and I'm here with my uh, co-chair of COMPASSE, Sam Lawler. And we are the leaders of the Committee for the Protection of Astronomy and the Space Environment, which is a committee of the American Astronomical Society. And we know that that's why you're here. And we're very excited to talk to you. We've heard a lot about what you do, and we're grateful for your help in getting the word out about our efforts. And maybe you'd like to join us. So our committee represents the interests of the AAS relating to the protection of dark and radio quiet skies, the safe and sustainable use of outer space and related issues. And we seek to empower AAS members to be effective advocates for the protection of North American astronomy. We have two primary concerns that we address and that Sam and I will be talking to you about today. The things that we talk about are only a subset of all of COMPASSE activities. So we'll be talking about commercialization of orbital space, which we're abbreviating as SATCONs, and the impacts of artificial light at night, or ALAN. Again, I'm here with my co-chair of COMPASSE, Sam Lawler, and she's going to speak for the first 15 minutes or so. I will follow her with another 15 minutes, and then we will invite you to participate in questions and answers. So I'm going to hand it over to Sam.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to start off talking about SATCONs, mega constellations of satellites. Um, I'm not sure if you guys have a way to raise your hand or something, but how many of you have seen satellites in the sky? Okay, yes, I see some hands. Okay, it should be like everybody, right? They're so bright. How many of you have seen a Starlink train? Those are pretty freaky, right? Okay, a lot of people have seen those too, right? Yeah, this is how I got involved in this was seeing how satellites are changing the night sky, how they're changing astronomy, and how they're changing just the way the night sky looks. Next slide. So here's where we are right now. There's more than 12,000 functional satellites in orbit. Two-thirds of those satellites are Starlink, as of yesterday, right? So two-thirds of all satellites in orbit are owned by one American private company that's owned by one billionaire, right? That's where we're starting from. Next slide. Uh, so we're, the reason we're here is to talk about how these satellites are affecting our observatories, right? We're getting satellite streaks in optical and infrared images. We're getting noise in radio observations in many different frequencies. The way the night sky looks is changing, right? Uh, traditional knowledge keepers are seeing the night sky change from the way it has been for as long as we've been human. It's changing the way the night sky looks with your eyes, with astrophotography, with small telescopes, with research telescopes. We're concerned about crowding in orbit. We're concerned about how this is going to keep going if we keep throwing so many satellites into the same orbits. And we're concerned about the end of life for all of these satellites. Some of what we've been focusing on is the US government is gearing up to sell off radio frequencies that are used for science in radio astronomy. The Office of Space Commerce has this space situational awareness and tracking system that they've been building up for years that has suddenly looks like it's getting axed. Maybe it's really unclear because industry also doesn't want this to disappear. And Space Force, US Space Force is who is keeping track of and making public the orbits of new satellites. They've been very slow to catalog multiple satellite launches, as happens with mega constellations. Uh, and that is a huge safety issue. Um, Right now, there are several mega constellation companies that have signed coordination agreements with NSF, which these are voluntary agreements to try to keep their satellites fainter, think about radio emissions from their satellites, that all just to be polite, basically be polite to astronomy. Um, and that's all we've got right now, right? Like there's nothing binding, there's no laws, there's nothing that forces companies to do anything to take astronomy into consideration. So it's really important that we keep these coordination agreements and extend them to other companies, and make sure that we don't lose what we already have and maybe try to improve that. That's where that is right now. All of this is being complicated by all of the closures and funding cuts and changes that are happening in the US government right now. And as bad as everything in orbit is right now, it could get a lot worse for astronomy, right? There's talk about solar power from space, uh, which would involve transmitting huge amounts of energy over radio frequencies. There's direct to cell satellites, which are much bigger and much louder in radio frequencies. There's space advertising, there's shining lights on the ground, right? Like there's all sorts of things that could get much worse. So this is really important to keep on top of. Next slide, please. So a lot of what we've been working on is writing letters and statements. I can talk about any of these more in detail. There's been a lot of focus in the US government on selling off radio frequency and just assaulting any rules on the radio spectrum. So there's been an incredible amount of work within this committee, especially the radio specialists, just trying to talk to the FCC, trying to keep them listening to astronomers at all. And so these are the ones that went in officially. We also talked about atmospheric pollution, about just continuing to make public where your satellites are going, right? If you're going off to an asteroid, please tell us which one you're going to. Don't keep that secret. Space advertising, right? So those are all official ones. We've also sent in several that just didn't have enough time to get official AAS approval. So we just signed them as individuals. Next slide, please. Okay, so I started off worrying about satellites being shiny, and just changing the way the night sky looks, and then space debris fell near my house. So like clearly there's a lot of issues wrapped up in just the huge number of satellites that have been launched into orbit, right? Everything that is in low Earth orbit is going to be burned up in Earth's atmosphere, and anything that doesn't burn up will make it to the ground and cause hazards on the ground. Next slide, please. Getting all of these tens of thousands of satellites into orbit requires a huge number of rocket launches. Rocket launches emit, a fair bit of pollution, but there weren't very many rocket launches up until very recently. Now we're seeing, at least a rocket launch per day. And rockets deposit their exhaust at very high altitudes. It is changing upper atmosphere chemistry. We don't really understand how, and this is an area that needs a lot more study. The rocket launches also punch holes in the ionosphere, and can affect radio astronomy and optical astronomy over large areas in that way. Next, please. So like I said, everything that is in low Earth orbit will be disposed of by burning it up in Earth's atmosphere. So just looking at Starlink, because they have the most right now, conservatively, they will have 30,000 satellites at full operation. Each of these satellites conservatively is 1,000 kilograms. Each of these satellites conservatively has a 5-year operational lifetime. That comes to 16 tons of satellites per day that will be burned up in Earth's atmosphere, right? And that doesn't disappear, right? Like all that metal and plastic and computer parts, that all gets deposited in the stratosphere. Uh, and yes, there's 50 tons per day of meteoroids that naturally re-enter, but they're rocks, not computer parts and metal, right? Satellites are about 50% aluminum by weight, right? So conservatively, that's 8 tons of aluminum per day, more than 25 times the natural rate. Next slide, please. And over the course of their last reporting period, December to May, they deorbited almost 500 Starlinks. That's 2.5 Starlinks per day. A lot of these were smaller ones, so let's say 500 kilograms each. That's already double the natural infall rate of aluminum per day, and they've been doing that every day for the last 6 months. So that's where we are now. Next slide, please. If you look at, you can see the pink line is the number of satellites in orbit. You can see it's got this nice hockey stick when Starlink starts launching. And most of those have 5-ish year operational lifetimes. You can see that green line is the number of reentries. We're just getting to the hockey stick in reentries. So it's already measurable how much metal there is in stratospheric aerosols. And that's going to get much worse. So we don't really know what's going to happen. Next slide, please. Um, Alumina is something that has been focused on a little bit by some of the studies that have been done. It could change atmospheric opacity, it could deplete ozone, but we don't really know. Um, uh, we're just running this experiment. There's also metals like lithium that are not in meteorites at all. So yeah, we don't know. This is really the scariest part to me. Okay, next. And then, of course, low Earth orbit is getting crowded. Let's skip on to the next one. Um, so this is looking at the number of close encounters, the rate of close encounters at different orbital altitudes, and you can see there's a nice dip there, and that's Starlink, right? So Starlink is having close encounters every few minutes. In their last report, they said every 2 minutes they did collision avoidance maneuvers on average. That's a lot. Next slide, please. Um, this is a new report from Kessler and Hugh Lewis, right? The Kessler. So everywhere where that gray curve is above the black curve, that's where we could have Kessler syndrome, right? You could have a runaway collisional cascade. And there's one little blip over on around 550 kilometers altitude. That's where Starlink is. So now I'm going to squish this and show it with that close encounter plot. Next slide, please. And so we're in this regime now where if we have one collision in Starlink's orbit, which is the densest part of orbit that has ever existed, we will be in Kessler syndrome, right? And not like, Hollywood, like, Sandra Bullock getting hit by pieces of stuff, right? Like this is an infinite there will be an infinite number of collisions in an infinite amount of time, right? So the number of collisions will continue to increase even if we don't add anything to that orbit. So it's not necessarily like a really fast thing, but it's we could get to the point where we cannot use orbit for decades to centuries. Like that's the worst case scenario, and we're very close to it. Next, please. So yeah, right. I complained a lot about Starlink because they're the first, but there are loads of companies that are lined up to do the same thing. Next, please. There's a million planned satellites by different companies. And next slide. We absolutely need to focus on advocating for fewer satellites in orbit with longer operational lifetimes, right? If we have that, all of these problems are much less. And so that is one of my main goals as co-chair of this committee and also chair of the debris subcommittee. This is the message that I'm trying to get to engineers. This is your engineering challenge now. Okay, and now I will hand it off to Michelle to talk about ground-based light pollution.
Thank you, Sam. So we've been focusing on the outer space environment and what's going on there. Let's talk about what we're doing from the ground. Um, this is a picture that I took in Death Valley National Monument, and those are light domes that you see from nearby cities. And Death Valley is a great place to go stargazing when you're not in a city, but when you're in a city, there's hardly any stars to see. But guess what? There's great solutions. And so our light pollution subcommittee is focused on these issues. I will say that all of COMPASSE is volunteers. And so we're trying to focus on addressing light pollution where we live, but also on the national level. I have some questions for you. I hope that you're still near your computer as you're listening to us talking. And so you have that little chat button. I wondered if you could open up your chat button and press the letter that best answers the question. Which of the following does ground-based light pollution not impact? Just type the letter. Everybody's going to see what your vote is. I'm going to wait. C. Someone says C. Okay. Thanks. I got at least 3 people voting C. Thank you, everybody. That is correct. I hope you enjoy my silly humor. The point of this question is to share that it affects a lot of things. What about this question? How much does the globe spend annually on misdirected artificial light at night? Take your best guess. I see a few C's and D's. That's definitely going in the correct direction. D is the correct response. D as in delicious. That comes from satellite data estimating the amount of light coming up into space from the ground. And that's what it looks like from space, at least in the US. You can see how artificial light at night has exponentially grown over time by 10% per year. That number percentage was published in the Journal of Science, so it was taken very seriously. And one thing that I love about that statistic is that it was collected by citizen science, people participating in Globe at Night. Some cities have turned light pollution around, though. Cities like Pepperell, Massachusetts, Tucson, Flagstaff, Arizona, they've adopted lighting ordinances that keep the light shining down and use low intensity and redder colors. So I wanted to share about everybody who's on our light pollution subcommittee. There's that almost 20 people, and it's the whole of COMPASSE is about 40 people. So we have people that are on multiple subcommittees, but it's just cool to see all these volunteers from the AAS trying to work on this issue. So what have we been successful at in the past year? We've collectively written to the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy asked us to share with them about, how we've moved to LEDs. Yeah, they're more energy efficient. But guess what? Because of the energy efficiency, cities and communities are using more and more of it. And so we're actually not reducing energy expenditures because we're just making so much more light, and it's really harmful to light pollution. So we created a letter that had a lot of references and data on that. Many of us are collaborating locally with our local birding societies, AAVSO, campgrounds, camping organizations to encourage and join on projects that induce communities to use dark sky friendly lighting practices. We also give workshops at AAS meetings and other astronomy related meetings. I'm going to share about those with you more in a moment. But I want to talk first about a new thing that came up in the organization of Dark Sky International, which many of us are a part of. So I'm on Dark Sky International's technical committee, And I also lead a chapter of of the Dark Sky International called Starry Sky South. Um, so a lot of us are like leading chapters where we live and helping our communities do a better job with lighting. One thing that really helped was the creation of these municipal and state level lighting ordinances, and I'm happy to send you where to get those ordinances. The great thing about them is, well, I'm just going to show you where to get them actually. So if you go to darksky.org, you click on what we do, and then you can select lighting ordinances. Here's what a lighting looks like. It's got like a, a declaration of why the community wants to adopt these good lighting practices. There's places where you can edit it for your community, like the date and the place. Here's an example of part of the lighting ordinances. You can see how specific the information is about lighting levels and color temperatures. So that, again, that's really handy for our community to be able to improve lighting where we live. Um, we've also introduced or are creating national legislation that we're hoping that several offices we're like in communication with that are like favorable to dark sky friendly lighting. We're advocating that they adopt national legislation. So we're in the middle of writing that, and our committee is in coordination with Dark Sky International on that. We've also created a program called Campus Shine. Many of us who are on the light pollution subcommittee, we work on campuses, and you might too. And so Shine stands for Safe and Healthy Illumination for the Nighttime Environment, and you can learn all about us on campusshine.org. So here's an example of what the website looks like. If you, we're focused on training people on campuses how to adopt these principles, the 5 lighting principles for responsible outdoor lighting. Um, and on that website, you can access a manual. The manual has steps for adopting those practices on your campus. There's also a light pollution 101 slide set. We have curriculum examples, mapping strategies, data collection tools that you'll need to get started on advocacy on your campus. So, and our community of Campus Shine members are not just astronomers. We've got environmental science educators and lighting designers, and maybe more people like you. So when you get to the website, you click on this button here for the Campus Shine manual. Again, it has all that information on it. You can also click for resources in the upper right-hand corner and see what each one of us are doing at our universities. So I'm at University of Alabama at Birmingham, so you can click on my university to see what I'm doing. The last thing I want to share about is the AAS 247 meeting is coming up. We have 2 potential events that we're working on in our subcommittee, which is a Campus Shine workshop, and that's again to train you how to get involved with dark sky advocacy on your campus and with your students and other disciplines. We also, there, right in the Phoenix area, there's a suburb called Fountain Hills where there's a new International Dark Sky Center, the first of its kind being created. And so we're working on a potential field trip there. These are all in the planning stages. Nothing's been set yet, but keep an eye out for those if you're going to AAS 247. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so that covers a couple of the things that our committee works on. Um, right, so here's our website. There's a lot of great resources there. We just covered the work of the light pollution and space debris subcommittees. There's also EMI, radio interference, policy, and community engagement. So if I know there are so many things to fight against right now, but as astronomers, this is something that we all have training in. So if you're looking for something else to jump in and fight and try to make the world a little bit better, this is a really lovely committee, and we invite any of you to join in. So yeah, now we will be happy to take some questions.
And while everyone thinks of questions, now that I'm here, I wanted to thank Michelle and Sam so much for coming to this first Agents Hosted uh, office hours for the AAS. And I know we have many AAS agents on, and hopefully many other people that wanted to learn more about this. A question I have is, what can AAS members and especially agents, do in terms of, uh, I mean, we can join the committee and we can, know about these things. Are there other things agents can do? Should observatories and universities be, proactively trying to help with light pollution? Oh, I remember. My other question is, what about radio? Is that
Yeah.
part of the Compass
Yep.
remit? I'm sorry, I missed the very beginning.
That's
And
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Dark and radio quiet. That's what we're going for, right? So we have a committee that actually met right before a subcommittee right before this meeting, discussing radio issues, which right now it's mostly been a lot of responding to FCC dockets and comments and letters, because the US government is working really hard to sell off radio spectrum and throw away rules for protecting radio observatories. So that subcommittee has been incredibly active in the last few months,
yeah,
writing both official and not official statements, that because it's just such a fast turnaround now, and it's going faster and faster and faster, so there's not always time to get official approval, and
yeah.
it's really hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that, all astronomers, all ground-based astronomers, are affected by the pollution from satellites.
And you started to ask a question about, yeah, what
Yeah, what can the agents do in particular? I mean,
yeah.
we can contact our departments and tailor things. We have some agents that represent observatories, which are presumably all over this stuff, but it's more than just observatories.
Yeah, it's so I would say, yeah, education, just telling people what's happening. Even a lot of people who are very involved in astronomy don't have any idea how bad the situation is in orbit, how dangerous it is, and how radio loud and how bright. Um, so just tell people what's happening. And one thing that I always tell people in the general public is advocate for better rural and remote internet for people, because that's what's driving this, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's an area of infrastructure that has been long neglected. And then, yeah, as for ground-based light pollution, there's so many good resources. That Campus Shine website is amazing, and I hope all of you look at it and share it with people. That's a part of the Compass committee that I haven't been as involved in, and I pulled a bunch of slides from my Astro 101 class about light pollution. Like, it's fantastic, just great resources there. And do you want to add anything, Michelle?
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like that is very good for people on university campuses in terms of observatories. I know McDonald Observatory is doing night sky like modeling of light pollution. And so observatories can get a all sky camera and assess how distant lighting is changing over time and impacting the observatory. They should also work on creating thresholds or like limits that of light pollution that they would want impacting their environment and advocating for the securing of those limits with the nearby communities.
Matt Chatrone points out it'd be great to have a talk like this at local astronomy clubs because they are a great way to plug into the community. I would imagine that our front offices get phone calls sometimes. I mean, I know I knew someone on the town council in Provincetown, and they were thinking about installing new lights. And at one point, he said, "Should we be thinking about light up and down?" And just knew I was an astronomer. And so, fortunately, I knew about the Dark Sky Association. I can point him to some good stuff. I imagine that our front offices at departments and centers all over the world might get similar phone calls. Like, what do we do? And so perhaps we could, let our office staff know if they get that question. I don't know. I imagine they do. That, this is the answer of what to
Yeah,
tell
and
them.
my suggested answer would be to refer them to those municipal and state level lighting ordinances. I can look up the link right now and put that in the chat.
Yeah,
So
that was off of
community
the Dark
members,
Sky Association, right?
yeah, the Dark Sky International published
That,
just last November the new templates.
great.
Um, so those would be great for community members to advocate for better lighting, and for us on campuses to advocate with our university to adopt those guidelines. I know I'm doing that at my university, and it's been a really great thing to get connected to the facilities department. Like sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't have gone into astronomy. I should have gone into facilities because their work is so cool. Like all the mapping they do, the infrastructure that they understand, and how all the pieces connect together. It's like a very nerd out place. But yeah, it's great to build connections with them and get them on your side if you can. So I'll take a minute to look for that and put it in the chat.
Any other questions from attendees? Maybe we can get a little meta and just so the agents understand, how long has COMPASSE been around, and like, can you talk a bit about how these committees work with respect to the society? Um, my understanding is sometimes they will start as like a working group or um, an ad hoc committee and eventually become a standing committee, and what kind of support you get from the society itself.
I can take a stab at this, but I don't have a super long history with Compass. I know that it had a different acronym shortly before I started. Yeah, Michelle, you've been
Oh,
on it longer than me,
yeah,
so maybe you should start off.
it was LP-RISD was the name, Light Pollution, Radio Interference, and Space Debris Committee, but they wanted something that rolls off the tongue better. So that changed in April 2023. Um, and I don't know how long it was operating, but I know it got very large and active 4 years ago when there was two co-chairs that started doing a lot of organization, and Sam and I took over from them just this past June.
Got it.
Yeah, and the focus yeah, it's and the subcommittees started up and the focus shifted a lot more to satellite pollution just as that has ramped up, right? Like that has changed so fast. Um
Yes.
yeah, so that was a lot of great work by Tesni Pugh and Aparna Venkatasen. They did amazing work in growing the committee in really useful ways without letting it get, too big, and it's all divided up nicely. So, yeah, so a lot of a lot of our work, like I said, has been like making these statements, which doesn't feel like it's doing a lot, but it really does. Like journalists pay attention, a lot of policymakers pay attention, and having an official AAS statement on atmospheric pollution by satellites, or whatever topic we have written a statement on, it really does make a big difference. So that's AAS has been very supportive about getting those statements out there, making them public, maybe even getting a little outside their comfort zone, making statements on things that don't seem like maybe they're a huge problem yet, but they're going to be very soon. So, yeah.
Yeah. I know anecdotally that the satellite industry was at first largely unsympathetic to the astronomers on this because they felt like they had spent years and years getting all the appropriate clearances to get satellites up there. And then, after everything had gone through, the astronomers jumped in late, and that we should have We shouldn't have been caught flat-footed. It's like the old thing from Hitchhikers. It's like it's been posted in that file on that other planet for 100 years. What are you complaining about? But it does mean we need better awareness, I think, so we see these things coming.
Yeah. Um, I also just want to respond to one other question you had, which is like, what is the support that we get from the AAS? So for those of you who have not been on a AAS committee before, here's the things that I understand about that support. And it's going to get very technical, so um, just bear with me. So one thing is that we do propose a budget every year to the AAS for things we want to do, like getting a Campus Shine website, or for materials at a workshop, or having a meet and greet at the AAS meetings, inviting speakers to special sessions that we're hosting, and also for travel to conferences that are not AAS conferences. So there's like an annual, or I don't know how often it is, but it's an artificial light at night conference that happens every so often. And some of us ask for travel to go to that and present on our work on light pollution. So those are things that we ask for. And then the Board of Trustees weighs in on what gets accepted. And so then we work with the money that we have to carry out the things that we want to do. So that budget, we have to propose it, I think, in September this year. So right now our committee is like actively discussing what do we want to spend money on in 2026. The other way that we get supported is from people on the call, like Ruhi and Colin. I'm not sure if he's here, but they're in the Office of Public Policy, and they're just like really, because our committee has so much to do with policy, they're really great resources for us on, especially, yeah, Sam is clapping, absolutely, on like what is the timing of the different things going on in the federal government, like when are these FCC comments due? And then they also know all the AAS deadlines. So when we want to get a statement approved that's been written by COMPASSE members, it has to go through a series of steps in AAS administration. There's a committee on, I forgot what CAP stands for. Committee, something public policy.
Policy.
Okay. We just call it CAP. But anyway, they're a group of members who are really like great with language. And thank you, Ruhi posted in the chat. That's what I guessed, but I didn't want to be wrong. Okay, so they have to approve our statements. They're experts on good language usage and making sure that the American Astronomical Society is represented well in our statements, and that we're not like overstating things or making inaccurate assumptions or whatever. So they have to approve it, and then the president of the AAS also has to approve our statements. So that's the way that Public Policy Office supports us, is by knowing all the deadlines and helping us get our statements through the system. Sam, do you want to add anything else that you see AAS supporting us with?
Just a lot of networking, right? Like and that's both within the committee and within AAS. Like somebody knows somebody on this other committee and this other organization, and that's been great. Really helped. Yeah, that like all of these issues we're dealing with are so big. It's not just one organization that can fight it. So it's yeah, that's been fantastic.
Rick Feinberg, have you thought about, asks, have you thought about recruiting doctors and nurses from campus health services to join the Campus Shine program?
Well, I feel like that's especially, thanks for the question. It's a really interesting one, especially since I'm on a medical campus. My university is a medical campus. So, um, the thing, yeah, the facilities administration is bifurcated through the academic side and the medical side. But the standards for lighting apply to both sides. So for me, I'll just speak for my own self. Like for me, just having the right contact in facilities like impacts the whole of campus. Um, but even so, I'm giving a big answer to your question. There are some of us who on Campus Shine who do like collaborate with medical professionals or like biologists who study circadian rhythm. Um, we do try to take in expertise from them. I will say this is only my fourth year doing dark sky advocacy, so I haven't done that yet, but I really want to. Like, it would be so great to sit down with an optometrist. Like, I know there's so many intricacies of the eyeball in terms of like when it starts to get dark at night, your I think your rods switch, your eyeball switches from rods to cones or vice versa. Your eyes just get more sensitive to lighting at night. And so learning from an optometrist about how that all works would make me such a better expert when I go try to educate others. But I'd also, yeah, like to engage them on like advocating also. I think what I find in particular though for light pollution, people who do light pollution work, is it's very personal. Like everybody has their advocacy thing that they do, whether it's being a master gardener or being a birder. Like people seem to get passionate about one thing. And so the people who are light pollution addressers or dark sky advocates, it just seems like to be personal. Like in Starry Sky South, we have librarians and coffee roasters. Like it's not all mostly astronomy people or so I don't know how else to say it except that like I would love to talk with them, but I'm not going to just assume that they're going to jump on board with the level of advocacy that me or other folks in Starry Sky South are doing.
Great. Okay. I don't see any other questions. So I think we can wrap it up, but I am really grateful again to have you do this, and I hope we get to host more office hours for other sections of the AAS. I know public policy has its own, but we wanted to give everyone else a chance to do this as well. So thank you again, Sam and Michelle, both for your hard work on Compass and for joining us today. And we will make sure to post this.
Thank you so much, Jason. It was great talking with you all, and thanks for your questions.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.